Hi everyone, today we are going to do a full analysis of Cambridge A Test 3. It's reading passage 2. The topic is the nature of genius, right? Genius means intelligent and clever, right? Let's just pay attention to the questions here. We have two types of questions. First one, matching, like selecting this. It could look like a multiple choice question, right? Because if you pay attention here, we have several alternative ones, and we have to pick which ones are the best ones, right? And the next one is about true, false, not given. And let's just look through the first type of the question. Choose 5 letters A to K. Write correct letters in boxes 1 to 5 on your answer sheet. And B, your answers may be given in any order. That's the point that we have to pay attention to, right? Below are the listed some popular beliefs about genius and giftedness. And you see, we have several popular beliefs about geniusness and giftedness, cleverness, intelligence, right? However, we have to choose 5 of them that are reported by the writer of the text, right? Um, which means the rest of the beliefs aren't reported by the writer. Only 5 of them have been reported, and just let's try to figure out what's going on here. Truly gifted people are talented in all areas. Talents of geniuses are soon exhausted. Gifted people should use their gifts. A genius appears once in every generation. Genius can easily destroy by discouragement. Genius is inherited. Gifted people are very hard to live with. People never appreciate true genius. Geniuses are natural leaders. Gifted people develop their greatness through difficulties, right? And genius will always reveal itself. And we have to figure out what's going on here in the text. And there has been an interest in genius, and prodigy is the word genius from the Latin gens family, and the term genius, meaning begetter, comes from the early Roman cult of a divinity as the head of the family. In its earliest form, genius was concerned with the ability of the head of the family, right? In its earliest form, genius was concerned with the ability of the head of the family, paterfamilias, to perpetuate himself. Gradually, genius came to represent a person's characteristics, and then an individual's highest attributes derived from his genius or guiding spirit. Today, people still look to stars or genes, astrology, or genetics in the hoping of finding the source of exceptional abilities or personal characteristics. The concept of genius and gifts has become part of our folk culture. Attitudes are ambivalent towards them. We envy gifted and mistrust them, right? This is some kind of uh, beliefs, right? What we have, true, talented in all areas, soon exhausted, use their gifts once in every generation, easily destroyed, inherited, very hard to live, never appreciate, natural leaders. The, if you just pay attention here, we envy the gifted and mistrust them. It could look like it could look like H1 here, but I am not so sure. Appreciate true genius. So let's just continue. In the mythology of giftedness, it's popularly believed that people are talented in one area, they must be defective in another, that intellectuals are impractical, prodigies burn too brightly, too soon to burn out. Right? This uh, this sentence, this statement can be the proof to be one, right? Let's just write down B here because soon exhausted. If you just pay attention here, burn too brightly too soon and burn out. So let's just write down its synonym here. Soon exhausted. And this one is 1. 1 to 5, right? So this one is 1. Bright, and let's just write it down here, 1. So if you pay attention here, we have the right answer that can be an evidence for the question 1. And let's just try to go on. That gifted people are eccentric, they are physical weakling, that there is a thin line between genius and madness, and then genius runs in families. Genius runs in families. So this could be an evidence for the question number 2, which could be a synonym to inherited, right? Genius runs in families means genius is inherited. So let's just make a tick to F. So the first one is B, the next one is F. The gifted are so clever, they don't need help. The giftedness is the same as having a high IQ. Some races are more intelligent or musical or mathematical than others. The genius goes unrecognized and unawarded. This is a good one. Unrecognized and unrewarded. And let's just highlight this word because we have here people never appreciate true genius, right? Which means number 3. This is going to be number 3. That adversity makes men wise, or that people with gifts have responsibility to use them. Adversity makes men wise. So adversity means negativity, right? And if you just realize we are talking about number 4, which means J, right? People develop their greatness through difficulties means adversity makes men wise, which means develop, right? And adversity is going to be difficulty, right? Or people with gifts have a responsibility to use them. Have a responsibility to use them means number 5, and should use, right? If you are just paying attention here, gifted people should use their gifts, which means, oh, I'm just my bad. Gifted people should use their gifts. This has the equal meaning that have a responsibility to use them. And if you just realize the answers, the first one is B and C, F, H, and J1, right? And just if you pay attention here, answers may be given in any order, which means if you write BC or CB, it's totally okay. You can do it on your way. And if you just pay attention here, we have already just figure out the synonyms, the phrases, the paraphrasing in the text, in the question, which means totally perfect for us, because you have to know that you are doing well in your exam. And of course, uh, everyone has to be make sure right they are doing okay. They are going to solving all the questions without any difficulty, without any adversity, right? And let's just move on to the next question. So it's going to be the question from 6 to 13, true, false, not given statement, right? So the 19th century studies of the nature of genius failed to take into account the uniqueness of a person's upbringing, right? In the 19th century, studies of genius lacked both objectivity and proper scientific approach. A true genius has general powers capable of excellence in any area, and skills of ordinary individuals are in a sense the same as the skills of prodigies. The ease with which truly great ideas are accepted and taken for granted fails to lessen their significance. Giftedness and genius deserve proper scientific research into their true nature so that all talent may be retained for human race. Geniuses often pay a high price to achieve greatness. And the last one is to be a genius is worth the high personal cost, right? And just if you just pay attention here, we have the paragraph beginning with 19th century, and it's referring to the question 6, which means it's a signal for every IELTS candidate that we have to pay our full attention here, and we have to just concentrate here, right? 19th century saw considerable interest in the nature of genius and produced not a few studies of famous prodigies. Perhaps for us today, two of the most significant aspects of most of these studies of genius are frequency with which early encouragement and teaching by parents and tutors had beneficial effects on the intellectual, artistic, or musical development of the children, but caused great difficulties or of adjustment later in their lives, and the frequency with which abilities went unrecognized by teachers and schools. However, so let's just pay attention to the sixth question. 19th century studies of the nature of genius failed to take into account the uniqueness of person's upbringing, which means it didn't take into account. It was a total failure, right? 19th century saw considerable interest in the nature of genius and produced not few studies of famous prodigy. Not a few studies. Not a few produced not a few studies of famous prodigy. Perhaps for us today, two of the most significant aspects of the studies of genius are frequency with which early encouragement and teaching by parents and tutors had beneficial effects on the intellectual, artistic, or musical development of the children, but caused great difficulties of adjustment later in their lives, and the frequency with which abilities went unrecognized by teachers and schools. Alright. However, the difficulty with the evidence produced by these studies, fascinating as they are in collecting together anecdotes and apparent similarities and exceptions, is that they are not what we call today norm references. In other words, when, for instance, information is collated about early illnesses, methods of upbringing, and schooling, we must also take into account information from other historical sources about how common or exceptional these were at the time. For instance, infant mortality was high and life expectancy much shorter than today. Home tutoring was common in the families of the nobility and wealthy. Bullying and corporal punishment were common at the best independent schools, and for the most part the cases studied were members of the privileged classes. If you just pay attention here, it's going to be true. Alright, why? First of all, let's try to figure out the synonyms here. Century, this, and studies of the nature of the genius. Studies of the nature of the genius. These studies. We have the word these studies here. Right? Failed to take into account. Failed. This is a keyword. It's fail. It's difficulty, right? And there is another one. Why? Because the cases studied were members of the privileged classes, which means it's really narrowed, not a broadened one, right? The studied cases were only members of the privileged classes. It's not about any other social, any other community. It's just limited one, right? And person's upbringing. We have here upbringing, right? If you just pay attention here. And however, this question is somehow a spread all over the how to describe the passage, the paragraph, right? And just if you combine all of here and just try to ponder what's going to be, and you can just come up the idea with the true one, right? And the next one, the 19th century. So let's just write down the number here, number 6. And the 19th century studies of genius lacked both objectivity and proper scientific approach. It was only with the growth of pediatrics in psychology in the 20th century that study could be carried out on a more objective, if still not always very scientific basis, which means just let's pay attention here. So 19th century, do we have this word? Of course we have here. I think this is going to be 7. 19th century. We have 19th century here. And lack. Lack means no, right? So could be carried out. Could be. Why it's written like could be? Because it's not, right? The modal verb is somehow telling that it could be carried out on a more objective, but it didn't happen in this way, right? That's why you should be really careful when you are dealing with the modal verbs, and if you have a problem with the grammar of the modal verbs, you need to pay attention and you need to be aware of its use, where you can use, how you can use the modal verbs. So modal verbs are the verbs. They are really tricky. They are really, really tricky because modal verbs can somehow uh, change the meaning of the verb, right? Do we have objectivity? Yes, we have objective here. And do we have scientific approach? Yes, scientific basis. You see? And that's why it's going to be true, because the question and the context are matchable and they are synonyms. Every single words, maybe just every single main words are given as synonyms here. That's why it's true. 6 is true. 7 is true. And the next one. A true genius has general powers capable of excellence in any area. Excellence in any area. You see? And you have to just pay special attention to the word any. Any means any. So it can be anything, any area, not a specific one, not a certain one, but any area, right? Geniuses, however, they are definite, but the peaks which stands out through the mist of the history are visible to the particular observer from his or her particular vantage point. Change the observers and vantage points, clear away some of the mist, and different lots of peaks appear. Genius is a term we may apply to those whom we recognize for their outstanding achievements, who stand near the end of the continuum of human abilities, which reaches back through the mundane and mediocre to the incapable. There is still much truth in Dr. Samuel Johnson's observation, right? The true genius is a mind of large general powers accidentally determined to some particular direction. So it's telling that it's accidentally determined to some particular direction, which means it's not all direction, but some direction, right? We may disagree with the general, for we doubt if all musicians of genius could have become scientists of genius, or vice versa, but there is no doubting the accidental determination which nurtured or triggered their gifts in those channels into which they have poured their powers so successfully. Along the continuum of abilities are hundreds of uh, thousands of gifted men and women, boys and girls, right? And if you just pay attention here, we have the clear evidence that can be a paraphrasing to the question number 8, right? And of course, we can see that the disagree, right? We may disagree with the general idea, for we doubt if all musicians of genius could have become scientists of genius or vice versa, which means they're not to be good at any area, right? This is somehow a final evidence to the question number 8, and let's try to some particular direction. So some particular direction can be a true antonym here, right? So it's not equal but antonym, okay? And disagree. This is the key word that it's going to be false because they don't have general powers. They don't have because according to the text, it's saying they disagree and determined to some particular directions, not all particular directions. That's why we can say that it's false, right? And the next one, the skills of the ordinary individuals are, in a sense, the same as the skills of prodigies. So, ordinary individual and prodigy. So, prodigy means talented young people. Ordinary individuals means common people, right? They are not prodigy, they are just people. So the skills of ordinary individuals are, in a sense, the same as, the same as the skills of prodigy. Okay, but there is no doubting the accidental determination which nurtured or triggered their gifts into those channels into which they have poured their power so successfully. Along the continuum of abilities are hundreds of thousands of gifted men and women, boys and girls. What we appreciate, enjoy, or marvel at in the works of genius or the achievements of prodigies are manifestations of skills and abilities which are similar to, but so much superior to our own. Our own. So it's telling that our own. I think it's telling that ordinary individuals, right? Our own can be a synonym to ordinary individual skill. We have skill here, and similar to. Similar to can be a synonym to the same as, right? And prodigy, we have the word prodigy here, so it's not, so it's not given in other words. Prodigy, skill. So skill, right in the text, and let's just highlight here and write number 9. So why can I say it's true or false? So it's true because the skills of ordinary individuals are in a sense the same. So a sense the same as similar to the skills of prodigy. According to this statement, I can say that, right? And let's just try to pay attention to the next statement. But that their minds aren't different from our mind. You see, their mind aren't different from our own, which means similar, right? It's also similar. All right, this is my final decision to the Question number 9. It's going to be true. And the next one. The ease with which truly great ideas are accepted and taken for granted fails to lessen their significance. So, is demonstrated by the fact that the hard-won discoveries of scientists like Kepler or Einstein become the commonplace knowledge of school children, and the one outrageous shapes and colors of an artist like Paul Klee so soon appear on the fabrics we wear. So, this does not minimize the supremacy of their achievements. Let's just pay attention here, which outstrip our own as the sub 4-minute milers outstrip our joggings. So, this does not minimize. This can be a synonym fails to lessen. So it's going to be a synonym to this. Let's write down 10 here. Their significance. Supremacy of their achievements, right? Great ideas. The ease with which truly great ideas. And I think this could be a true synonym to here, because this pronoun is referring to the previous idea, right? Previous opinion in the statement here. So if you just pay attention here, these are accepted and taken for granted. Fails to lessen means does not minimize, and significant means supremacy of their achievements. And I can say that it's true. Okay, the next one. The giftedness of genius deserve proper scientific research into their true nature so that all talent may be retained for human race. So to think of geniuses and gifted as having uniquely different brains is only reasonable if we accept that each human brain is uniquely different. The purpose of instruction is to make us even more different from one another, and in the process of being educated, we can learn from the achievements of those more gifted than ourselves. But before we try to emulate genius or encourage children to do so, we should note that some of the things we learn from them may prove unpalatable. We may envy their achievements. I don't think I'm so. As far as I know, it's not given. Why? Because no information about proper scientific research, no information about human race, right? It's not talking about this, and I think it's not given. It's not telling the truth, or it's not controversial idea, or it's not like the opposite, right? It's just no information here, because if you just look through here with translation on your own language, it's really difficult to figure out. No, it's impossible. It's impossible to, totally impossible to find out any information here, because there is no proper scientific research into true nature, right? And let's just move on to the next one. Genius is often pay a high price to achieve greatness. So, but before we try to emulate geniuses or encourage our children to do so, we should know that some of the things we learn from them may prove unpalatable. We may envy their achievements and fame, but we should also recognize the price they have paid in terms of perseverance, right? Which means that single-mindedness, dedication, restrictions on their personal lives, the demands upon their energies and time, and how often they have had to display great courage to preserve their integrity or to make their way to the top, which means it was really hard to them, and it was its price, right? Uh, so it's 100% true. Why? Because high price. So why high price? Because high they have paid. Uh, they recognize they have paid high price. High price means they dedicated themselves, perseverance, mindedness, dedication, restriction on the all such uh, challenges can be high price, and they are paying, right? They are paying. So to be a genius is worth the high personal cost. High personal cost. Let's see. Genius and giftedness are relative descriptive terms of no real substance. Mhm. We may at best give them some precision by defining them and placing them in a context, but whatsoever we do, we should never delude ourselves into believing that gifted children or geniuses are different from the rest of humanity, save in the degree to which they have developed the performance of their abilities. Mhm. I think it's not talking about high personal cost, no information, and the last one is not given because as long as you see we don't have such information here, and so overall, as you see, just we finished the reading passage 2. It was somehow difficult to get the ideas out of it, to extract the synonyms in the question and in the passage given, right? However, you need to do your best to figure out what's going on in the question and on the passage, and this is going to be somehow a hard work for you, but as we know, hard work pays off in the end, right? And that's why my recommendation to all of you to do your readings in this way to make sure that you are doing better, like you are doing in a particular way that can be accepted, like a reading analysis. So, this is all for today. Thank you.